Hi everyone, this time I wanted to start to talk about one of the more dangerous of my so-called relationships. This is one of the more important ones for many reasons. The age gap is quite questionable as we got into a relationship when I was 20 and he was in his mid-60s. There was many times I questioned why he'd want to be with someone my age, but I think it stemmed from paedophilia. Remember at the time I was operating at a much younger age and I also looked quite young for my age. He made comments throughout the time we were together towards young teenage girls in school uniforms, which would suggest he definitely preferred young girls. I was also aware of previous relationships he had with young girls, one of which resulted in a child. He appeared to pick on vulnerable girls, which is why he targeted me, no doubt. I believe he was working towards getting me to fall for him for a long time, as he was friends with my first husband's parents. He would make derogatory comments, mainly about my weight, as he knew this was a sore spot for me, to bring down my self-esteem further. At the time, I'd also not long had surgery to remove my kidney and was experiencing a lot of emotional abuse from my husband. We had not long moved into our own flat, which I was expected to work and pay for, clean, cook, and do everything, whilst he lounged around at home. He did have a few jobs away from home, which meant I was left alone for days on end, and I struggled with this as I felt vulnerable and scared. It didn't help his mother used to visit me or just drop in, despite me not wanting to have her in my new safe space. She would bring the older gentleman, which is how I will refer to him, with her when I was in my pyjamas or other states of undress, which was incredibly inappropriate. She started to spread rumours that things were going on between me and the older gentleman, I think mainly because I wasn't doing everything she wanted, and I wasn't at her beck and call, and she had screaming matches with me in the street because I wouldn't look after her children or whatever else it was she wanted me to do. Bear in mind, I had not long had surgery and was working and trying to keep my mental and physical health together. So this meant when my husband came home, he would accuse me of all sorts, saying I had acted differently or done things I wouldn't normally do. Of course, this wasn't true, but nothing I said mattered. It was all just a lie to him. He would then make sure he got dropped home from work earlier than he was meant to be because he was trying to catch me in the act, as he said, which he never did because I wasn't doing anything. And it got to the point where he would physically abuse me. He would throw things at me, back me into the wardrobe, punch right next to my head, and cause damage to property so close to me that I was absolutely terrified, all because his mother was stirring the pot. This is when the older gentleman stepped up his game and would tell me he would never treat me like that and he would take care of me. I wouldn't have to worry about anything, he would buy me takeaways, make me feel wanted and beautiful, and it got to the point I was so miserable at home, I just thought, well, I'm being accused of doing it, I may as well do it. This happened once, but it was not long before I left my husband, as I was so scared and I couldn't stand the abuse anymore, and I was convinced I'd be better off with this older gentleman. This really shows how those who have suffered trauma at a young age are drawn to people who are abusive and how dangerous this can be. I walked out on my dogs and my stepdaughter, which was one of the hardest things I've ever done. As you all know, I'm very attached to my dogs. And you know that I've been trying to have children and this hasn't worked. So losing both of those things was something that absolutely devastated me. And I'd never get this back because, as you know, I'd never have children. And I'd never have the relationship that I shared with my stepdaughter again. So I moved into the older gentleman's caravan, back into another unstable home. I just didn't realise how dangerous this one would become. He had a young child himself at the time, so I thought at least I'd be able to develop a mother-son bond with his child. I cannot begin to tell you how wrong I was. I had traded a home with an abusive husband and emotionally abusive mother-in-law to a home with an uncaring supposed partner and an extremely abusive son. But that was not the only abuse I was to suffer in this so-called relationship. If it wasn't the son pulling my hair or kicking the back of my seat whilst I was driving, or punching me, calling me names, spitting on me, and many other forms of abuse while his father watched and did nothing, then it was the older gentleman, making me drive him everywhere, spend all my wages on takeaways and gifts for him, and being forced into sex. This included him raping me, taking pictures and videos of me, making me do things while his friends watched, things that I never wanted to do. And then it was about to get worse. What he did can only be described as pimping me out. I was part of a sex ring that I knew nothing about. He wanted things, material things, and he said that what we had was called an open relationship, when in reality, it was him making me have sex with people, talk to these people online, have sex with them, and get them to do things for him. This could be fixing his cars, doing work on his house, or other things. It depends what that person had. as a trade or as a use to him. But I will cover this in detail next time. Until then, be the voice and be the change.